Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Dojo Talks. Today, we're doing the state of U.S. chess. We're making this a tradition. After every U.S. championship, we're going to discuss what we see happening on the U.S. chess scene. And today, we thought we'd just go, each of us having about five things, five takeaways from the state of U.S. chess. And I'll hand it first to Kostya. What's your, let's do 5-1. So save your biggest one to the last.
Oh, my biggest. Okay, hold on. All right. Well,
Save the biggest one to the last.
I
Woo,
I don't.
throwing
I'll be
curveballs.
yeah. I'll be very very honest here. I don't have five planned out. I don't have five. I have many takeaways from U.S. Championship. I was kind of hoping we just get into the conversation. I'd see what you guys have to say, and I kind of bring my own thing to it. But yeah, I'll definitely start with one. I don't know if it'll be my smallest one.
Okay.
Obviously, the tournament was marred by the story of Naroditsky. I just want to throw that out there. That was basically the biggest story of the tournament. And I don't know if this is so much of a takeaway or maybe a point. Well, I'll start with this one, and then we can talk about all the other stuff. But of course, that news really affected a lot of the players in the tournament. And one of the biggest things towards the end was just seeing who could kind of finish the tournament strong, despite this being on everyone's mind, I would say, throughout the rest of the event. Because I think there was 4 rounds left to play when the players heard of the news. So that, of course, for me was honestly kind of difficult to watch because I think we've all had the experience of having to play chess when something else is going on in your life. And it's really, really hard to play well and to focus. But of course, these players were playing for titles and everything on the line. So they basically had no choice but to try and fight. So maybe the takeaway here is just how hard it is actually to play chess when something else is going on in your life. For instance, I remember at the end of the tournament, Wesley So he had a chance to win until the absolute end. He was doing great, but at the very, very end, after all the games were done, he basically said in the interview, like, after the Naroditsky thing, he didn't want to play anymore. Like he was very traumatized, but he felt like he had to try for the fans because he was fighting for first place, so he had to do his utmost. And then, of course, I heard Levon saying he didn't want to play. I think Hans was saying he didn't want to play. So many players, I think, given the chance, would have actually quit the tournament right there. But of course, they had to finish it due to the prestige of the whole thing.
Okay.
Dave, what's your number five, bud? Takeaways.
Well, so I'm not sure how to rank them in order of five down to one. Um, okay, here's maybe so I'm trying to pick out like a big takeaway that's slightly lame compared to my other big takeaways. So, do I pick something more obvious or less important? Okay. I I don't know what the order should be, Jesse. Don't
Okay.
be too harsh on me.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say that one of my takeaways is that Fabi is still like at a different level than the other players, even though numerically on paper, Wesley So and Levon Aronian have been close to him in rating for a while. Hikaru as well over the last 5 to 10 years. Uh, in fact, every single one of those players has been number two in the world at some point.
Very good.
Um, and yet the impression is that Fabi somehow is, at least like clearly above them. Like you can just see the difference. Like he's the one racking up U.S. championship wins. He's always coming with some fire in his belly. I think that might be one of the things that he has over the other players, although it's hard to say. It could just be his level, but it seems like he's always still pushing a bit more than some of the rest of them. And he's now won 4 years in a row. And I know that the margins are generally half a point when he wins the U.S. championships. And so if you just looked at one championship and he won by half a point, you might say, well, somebody had to pull ahead. You can't make a whole story out of Fabi being better than everyone else. But if it's 4 years in a row, the odds start to go down, right?
Yeah,
And
no, I mean the
half
4 years in a
points.
row thing is amazing. I mean, people heard it's the first time since Fisher that someone pulled this off.
I do.
And I would say that the field is probably much stronger than what Fisher was facing, like much more competitive. The
Yeah.
gap is much smaller between Fabi and everyone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, super impressive. I think Wesley was saying that uh, one or two of the years that Fabi won, it was like very close, but then the last 2 years, like he's just started to kind of dominate.
Sure.
And like he's been very, very clean. Though this year it was very close. I mean, up until the very end, Wesley had chances in the final game. Although it should be said, Fabi missed a half point against Wesley. He basically should have put that game away. And had he won that game against Wesley, then maybe he would have won the tournament
Weird.
sooner or a lot clearer.
Yeah.
So a bit of, bad luck there. But okay, the I don't think Fabi is necessarily a stronger player than Hikaru.
Mhm.
It's just like I think what you're saying is like he's achieving more, like with the U.S. championships,
I mean, winning a
candidates.
U.S. championship is a huge achievement, right?
Yeah.
And if you win it, then you're outclassing the others. It's hard to say how good someone is who doesn't show up. Like me, nobody knows how good I am because I don't show up and play chess, right?
Sure. No, but
Uh,
I mean, what I'm getting at is like their head-to-head record in recent years has been in
mhm.
Hikaru's
It's
favor,
been in
right?
Carris's favor. I'm
He's
aware.
won like multiple like big games. So, um, but okay, Hikaru's not there, right? So yeah, it's hard to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understand that using the word dominate in the same sentence as half a point may not seem so clear, right? But to me, 4 years in a row, it's like it's a big deal. Nobody's really to my mind, nobody's really threatening to win the tournament ahead of him. The US championship we've talked about in previous years, already 2 years ago, I think during one of these episodes, we mentioned that the tournament was half 2,700. So we've talked about how the US championship developed into a super tournament, right? And so when you're playing at a super tournament level, a half a point is a lot. And if you look at how the other players finish in the tournament, one year somebody finishes +1, the next year they finish -1. There's some variation. And with Fabi, it's like no variation. He's always winning. So so I'm pretty impressed. For me, he's like cementing his position in US chess, right? Like if you look back at this year, I, again, even like the Hikaru comparison, right? Um, and I'm not saying this to go after Hikaru or anything, right? But I mean, people could look at the ratings and say, oh, Hikaru's rating was 5 points higher than Fabi's on average during these 4 years or something like that. Or someone could look back and say, oh, Fabi racked up, 5 US championships over a decade, right?
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
no,
I
I think Fabi has like been a much more consistent player, right? I mean, he was the first to qualify for the candidates by winning the 2024 FIDE circuit, which measures how good and active you are for the whole year.
Mhm.
So it's not like he just
He's having a
won.
good year,
It's not like he just won one event and qualified. Like
right?
he dominated the year and then qualified.
Yeah.
So no, of
But
course. I
I
mean,
feel like he's putting together overall like a very impressive tournament record. And I definitely believe in ratings as far as predicting individual games and results. And I generally believe in ratings as being like, something you can look at historically and say, oh, how good was this player? But I also like I still remember an era where people didn't have ratings, right? And where you would look at the 2010s and say, hey, who seemed to be the best player of the 2010s, right? Like what do we think of Rubinstein's tournament record over these 10 years? Was he the third
Mhm.
best player in the world or the second best player in the world, right? And so when I look at what's been happening over the last 10 years, I just feel like Fabi's really kind of tournament by tournament. It's like a long and slow process, but I feel like he's really writing a legacy of himself as like, one of the top American players of all time, right? That's kind of
Yeah,
like
definitely.
the things he's doing now are things that other people's performances could be compared to in 20 or 30 years.
Absolutely.
We don't know who that player will be in the future, but they'll say, "Oh, is this guy, dominating American chess or showing a level comparable, right, to what Fabi did before?"
Yeah, yeah. Wait, did you mean to say 2010s and then Rubinstein?
He meant 1910.
That would have been 1910s.
Oh,
Maybe
okay,
I
okay, yeah,
misspoke.
no.
Yeah.
People get mad at us when we don't correct each other. So
Okay. No, no, I appreciate you for it.
They get mad almost no matter what. All right, my number five takeaway was just this interesting thing with Mishra And I just want to put in this context is that let's say about pre-COVID, 2019, when Mishra, I first saw that kid, I was like, this kid's amazing. A lot of other people saw that kid too. And then for years, or last couple years, he hadn't done so well. And then he had the amazing result at the recent candidate spot tournament. And we were all watching that. We're like, wow, this is his great breakthrough. And then again, now he lost 10 points at this tournament, finished, poorly. And so it's this weird thing where the guy, it felt like he was going to jumpstart his chess, you know, and he's still like of the juniors, he's still looking like a top world junior, but like he's not finding his breakthrough. So that's my number five and the US chess
Yeah,
takeaways.
Hans broke him. Hans broke the streak, and then he lost, I think, another 2 games very quickly after that as well.
Yeah.
Right. His streak was at like 70-ish games without a loss.
Yeah, yeah,
Very, very solid streak for a kid.
I'll
For
tell you what,
anyone, right? But even
yeah.
more for a kid.
I'll go
Um,
again. I'll go twice just because this one's connected. My number four takeaway is Andy
okay.
Woodward. And so let's just put this in context. Mishra is 16, Andy is 15. Andy also, like a couple years ago, Hikaru was sponsoring him. A lot of people were looking at him as the great new talent, and he might well be it. He played some great chess. I'm going to talk a little bit about Fabi later, but the one game where Fabi was cooked as white was in his game against Woodward. He was smoked, dude. He was done. He was toast. He was out. And
Yeah,
somehow he didn't win that one. And Woodward started slowly in the tournament, came back, and now he's 2605. And so both of these kids are looking strong and like, especially Woodward, like they both get to go. Well, this is the reason I wanted to pair it. Is in a couple days, this World Cup thing is going to happen. We're going to do
hmm
some coverage here. And those two guys got spots, Mishra and Woodward. So we're going to see if they can jumpstart their situation. And Woodward's chess is just very dynamic. Mishra's is not. Mishra's is not. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to play undynamic chess. But Mishra is playing the kind of, excuse me, Woodward's playing the kind of chess that, he could catch fire. He could catch
The
fire.
kind of chess we associate with geniuses and brilliance and high ceiling potential and stuff like that.
yeah. Tactically, the kid is
That's right.
amazing.
And another thing, actually, yeah, something that we talk about sometimes is like how when we think about talent, we've talked about it a number of times, like how fast does somebody make 2,700? Is it a stop and start, or does it just look like a clean climb? And I think that's going to be the question for both of those, how long it takes when we start thinking about their long-term potential. As we said, Mishra has been stalled out for a long time, but now Andy finally made 26, so that's a huge achievement, I think, to make 2,600.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Andy, extremely talented.
I
One of the
wanted
most talented kids I've ever seen, for sure. In fact, I remember the first time I saw him was I happened to be at the World Under 8 Youth Championship, and he was one of the U.S. kids. And we had another kid that was slightly more talented than him at that point and ended up winning the thing, but he was very, very strong. And so I remember being very impressed with him already, like back because he was like 2100, like 7 years old or so. He was very, very good. But then I played Andy a couple of times, and yeah, his calculation, his tactical ability is just incredible. And now it's clear by his games that tactically he's just kind of like a monster. He's the Puzzle Rush world champion, which is very hard to do. And last year, I think he was
Is
like
he
the
really the
final
Puzzle
as
Rush
well.
World Champion? Okay,
Yes, he
that's
he was
amazing.
the one that defeated Ray Robson's 5-year streak or ended it.
yeah.
He was the one. So
Wow.
he's chosen basically. Um,
Costio, who won that under 8 world championships?
it was another kid. His name was Uraj, I believe, Chenna Reddy. So he didn't end up. I think at some point maybe he stopped playing chess. He didn't end up becoming like a title player.
Okay.
Um, but I remember the two of them actually were both kids of Mezgin Amanov. I believe they were
Mhm.
both students of his
Oh, sick.
for some time.
Good.
I don't know
Sweet.
how long, but I remember it. He knew both of them. So, uh, yeah. So yeah, I've seen Andy kind of grow up the last like several years, and just his games are very, very impressive. And yeah, now he won multiple nice games in U.S. championships, which is cool. And he had like amazing Grand Swiss. So yeah, it's awesome to see him in the World Cup. Actually, a bunch of American players are going. So like Sevian's going, Robson's going, Hans, Levon. So we're gonna have a ton of Americans actually in the World Cup, which will be interesting to follow.
I want to talk for a moment about the game that Jesse brought up between Fabi and Woodward
Yeah,
because I one of my big takeaway from that game was that I thought Fabi played amazing defense, like made incredible judgments or decisions about what material he did or didn't want to trade off and what situation he could have hopes of surviving. And honestly, the way he played it, I think although, when Jesse says that Fabi was cooked, I feel like Fabi gave himself extremely good chances of saving the game against, grandmaster level human opposition. I actually thought, it was like I thought it was critical to him winning the tournament was how well he played defense. The one time he was just getting ravaged. So I don't know what
yeah.
you two think of that, but
No, absolutely. I was expecting him to lose the game.
yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty incredible that he saved it. And I don't think
Yeah.
Andy made any like obvious blunders. It's
Right.
just
Like Bobby did it in a way where you're like, okay, I guess I wouldn't have won that position against him. Right? Like you're watching the game expecting his opponent to win, and then his opponent sort of doesn't make any obvious mistakes and doesn't win, and you say, okay, I revised my estimation of being able to win this position.
yeah. But yeah, still very, very interesting game.
Mhm. Well, I just say briefly, my number four was the same as Jesse's. That Woodward is good, and
Uh-huh.
it also would have dovetailed on Jesse's number five, which is about Mishra, because um, after the FIDE Grand Swiss, sometimes I have recency bias. Sometimes I say, oh, it's just an up or a down. I don't know where it
Yeah.
comes from with me. But after that tournament, I thought from the level I saw them play, from watching them move by move, the time they were taking, their moves as they
Yeah.
were coming in, I was like, both of these two players are going to be 2,700, Mishra and Woodward,
Yeah.
right? And then we see this tournament, and it's definitely a little bit disappointing result for Mishra, and Jesse's back to like, oh shoot, is the guy stuck in the doldrums?
Yeah.
Was one breakthrough tournament not enough to make an overall breakthrough in his level and career? And Woodward had another tournament which was very uneven with brilliancies and like some real failures to put away some end games. Um, and he just looks super, super promising again, right? And when you see his rating with a 5 in the hundreds column, you're like, that makes no sense. Like that makes no sense.
Yeah.
It feels like he's knocking on the door of 2,700. So the conclusion for this tournament is, I still think Woodward is definitely 2,700 uh, in the offing, and maybe it's going to be slower going for Mishra. He should still eventually make 2,700, but
That's good.
those are like the two real junior prospects there.
Yeah, definitely seems like the talent is there. Um, okay, so I have a couple. I managed to think of some.
Yeah.
Woodward is definitely one of my takeaways. So I'm glad we talked about Andy because yeah, super, super impressive um kid. Also, it seems like he has a fantastic character as well, which I think is important to be a top chess player. You have to deal with a lot of stress. And it seems like he's able to manage it quite well. So good on him.
Mm.
Um,
I think he's probably also still like enjoying it, Kostya, right? Like it's later in life that things get more dramatic. You start dealing with some setbacks and people talking smack about you. At first, you're a golden kid, right?
yeah, no, he's definitely still enjoying chess. Yeah, I would hope. Okay, I'll give one. Maybe I'll stick with Fabi actually. So I was really impressed by Fabi's openings throughout the event because he came up with a number of interesting ideas early on. And he was showing that it's still possible to find new directions in the opening. So in round one, for instance, he played against his second, Grigory Oparin, And they had a Nimzo Indian where Fabi went queen c2 on move 4, the classic. Opponent went d5, which is the main move, also castles is there. Fabi went a3, challenging the Nimzo Indian bishop. Opponent takes on c3 with check, as you usually do in the Nimzo Indian. And then Fabi, having played queen to c2, recaptured b takes c3,
Yeah.
right?
My
So,
circuits blew out
yeah,
at that moment. I
the
was
same,
watching.
right? And I thought like, okay, maybe, maybe someone already, maybe this is some theory or something, but I think it was pretty fresh. I don't remember if I looked it up, but it was clearly new to Aparin because he started spending a lot of time, and Fabi just completely crushed them. Like, because it's a typical thing. You get hit with a big opening idea, you misplay it. Aparin gets hit with this like crazy kingside attack, like G4 idea. And it was like a good version, this like Sheriff Shabalov G4 style attack. And yeah, Fabi won very, very nice game. And so, okay, that was just one example because, of course, queen c2 followed by b takes c3 is just very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But I think a big point of it was to just reach a position that the opponent doesn't know concretely and then has to make decisions and can possibly make a mistake. Another example I was really impressed by was Fabi's game against Hans, where as black in the Italian game, he played third move d6,
Oh my God. That game was
which is
also just
rare.
insane.
Yeah, yeah, and then he ends up getting f5, f4 as black, and just basically just crushes Hans. Although, let's say to be more objective, it seems like Hans just didn't play well that day because he kind of castled into this attack. And I even asked Fabi like his thoughts, and he was also surprised. So he just thought like Hans just had a bad day, basically. So maybe not the most impressive game on his end, but still, it was a very nice opening idea because it was
I
very
think
rare.
when you play that freshly and that enterprisingly, you will find that your opponents have bad days more often.
For sure. For sure.
I mean, like he threw something at him that the guy was not expecting.
Yeah. And so no, I mean, I think that's a classic story. Players often react badly when they're hit with a surprise.
Right.
And I think there were a couple other cases too, but yeah, I thought that was very, very cool to see. Um, and so yeah, a lot of times. Okay, so I was going to talk about Hikaru a bit later, but people were also talking about Hikaru during the tournament, like where is he? Why isn't he playing? And so on. And one of the things that his fans often like to mention is that like he's saving prep for the candidates.
Uh-huh.
That's why he's not playing the tournament. And it's like maybe the candidates is like 7 months away, so there's still some time to get some new prep. But Fabi's showing that it is possible to like show big ideas, come up with new ideas in this tournament, and I'm sure he's gonna have fresh stuff ready for the candidates as well.
That's a solid prognostication, Coast. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
So yeah, yeah, good openings from him. People should also, I mean, this wasn't the US Championships, but I saw that for the Grand Chess Tour final in Brazil, which was just a few weeks before, that Fabi also won, which was, I think, a mix of like classical and rapid. For that tournament, he played the King's Indian, like the whole event. Like he just prepared it for that tournament and then played it against Levon and other players. And so, yeah, clearly, like you could just prepare openings very fast these days because the engines are just so much stronger. So it's a lot faster to kind of catch yourself up with the theory of a line and just kind of like find a new direction.
Perhaps I don't know if it's like a requisite or if everybody at the top level has this the way Fabi does, but to some extent it's a requisite that you have a certain level of understanding and class and positional, depth for those different openings. Like you you know, like I could spacebar through some moves in the King's Indian, but then when I sit down to play it, I'm not gonna play the middle games like you, Kostya, or like Fabi, right? So I don't know if everyone can do it to the degree that Fabi's doing it. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's just impressive just how much like you're just bouncing between different openings, finding stuff, and just playing
yeah,
almost everything.
yeah.
Okay, my number three, here's just some stat I'm throwing you, is that there are now seven Americans over 2,700. Seven. And on the basis of that, I think you can make a very strong case that this is the strongest America has ever been. Now, we might not have a world championship holder or something, but 7 out of 34, that's a lot. That's a lot of players who are super strong. And that isn't even including, say, Shanklin, who has fallen a little bit below 2,700. So there's all kinds of people below who have already been 2,700 who are not even included in that seven. So I think it's
Shanklin
a
and
very
Columbus.
strong time for U.S. chess. Kosyak, you are a man on the ground, and I just wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
Who lives in St. Louis now of the top players?
The top players. Okay, I think um
So we know Dominguez does, right?
so Dominguez, Fabi, and Levon.
What about like, let's say, a Wonder or Sevion or
Hmm. I think a Wonder is around. I think he might have been going or is going to Webster University in the near
Mhm.
future. So yeah, he might be around. Ray Robson still lives in St. Louis.
Right, right.
Um, so a lot of the kids that graduate from college, they stay here. So I think Benjamin Bach is still in St. Louis, although he
Uh-huh.
graduated a little while ago. Okay, he's not a U.S. player, but very, very strong.
Mhm.
And
And
where's
so yeah,
Woodward going to move to St. Louis? What about these kids anyway?
Andy, I think is from Texas. I don't,
Mhm.
but I don't know exactly where
Okay.
where he lives. And also, Carissa was going to move to St. Louis to
Right,
pursue
right.
chess. It was very exciting.
Amazing. Amazing stuff. Um, well, I'm going to end it by asking, do you guys think it's the strongest time in U.S. chess?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Or do you need to
Yeah,
have a
Good
world
question.
champion to say?
Pro- Probably yes.
I mean, when else have we
But
had like the highest kind of average rating of the top players compared to the rest of the world?
right. I mean, we have for the last 2 or 3 years, right? Like it's an era. It's not just this year is a complete aberration or anything like that,
Mhm.
right? I mean, ever since Bobby, Wesley, Levon, and Dominguez switched federation.
Well, but take this. Here's an example, Mr. Bruce. So when
Yeah.
we had the Olympiad where Gukesh crushed everybody,
Yeah.
it seemed at that moment it was like, oh, India is definitely the strongest nation by far, and they're just going to continue getting stronger.
Yeah.
But
This
now,
time.
if you look at it, it's like, oh, I definitely think you could make a strong case that we're stronger than the Indians right now.
Well, I mean, I think on paper it was already the case in 2024 that the US was the highest rated team.
Uh-huh.
Like they are now, right? But the truth is that India's average rating is comparable to ours over the top four or top eight or top 10 players,
Mhm.
right? So there's two teams that are currently just by ELO ratings head and shoulders above the others, right? And the Indian team had a very good performance in that Olympiad. I don't think the balance of power between the US and India has changed dramatically in the last 1 or 2 years. But if you look at the average age of the Indian players over 2,700 and the American players
Uh-huh.
over 2,700, it would suggest that in 3 or 4 years, India would have
Fair.
outstripped the
Okay.
U.S.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who else is coming, right? Like, think about how many players Vishy
Well,
Anand inspired.
well,
So
we
now
got
they've got
Mishra and Woodward
Gukesh.
coming. That's what we got coming.
Yeah, we've got Mishra and Woodward, but India's got more than that.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
fair.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
yeah.
say I'm sad to say because I don't care about the U.S., but for anyone who's hoping that the U.S. is going to be higher than India, I, I'd be I'd be surprised.
Well, I just wanted to just note the fact that it looks a lot different. Like India doesn't have anyone in the top five at the moment. It's very surprising, you know. So um they haven't they'll come back, I'm sure. It's just
It's
at the
just a
moment. It's
moment.
yeah, it's
Yeah, I
just the
mean, the
moment.
Yeah,
other day
Arjun Pragukesh.
I saw an Instagram post of like a training camp in India, and then I
Yeah.
was like looking at the faces. I was like, uh-oh. It was like just killer after killer,
Yeah.
just like training together, like with like Ramesh or some other like super coaches. So no, they're coming. Don't
Yeah.
don't worry.
Yeah. That said, I mean, is the U.S. at the strongest point it's ever been historically? I think this era is probably like the strongest the U.S. has ever been. If you're looking not at just, do we have more Fear Fisher or the current world champion, but
Right.
just the average level of the top 10 players in a country to get more of a sense of the full
Yeah.
country strength. I would say the U.S. is at its, over the last 4 or 5 years, as I said, probably at its strongest point.
Right.
It's a healthy time. We got some juniors up and coming. So it's good. Um, okay, David, do you want to give your number three?
Sure. My number three, will be that Carissa Yip is a good candidate to become a grandmaster.
Okay.
Yeah. She's been making some progress all year. She's at the highest rating of her career right now. Um, and she's just shown good chess for the last 6 months. Um, some people may remember that in a previous U.S. Women's Championship, she almost got the perfect 11 out of 11,
Right.
which is associated with the Bobby Fischer prize because Fischer once scored 11 out of 11 in the U.S. Championships. And I think she may have won her first 10 games and lost in the 11th round.
9 games, but yeah.
9 games and lost in the 10th round. She came very, very close. And I remember talking to her right after the tournament. She was pissed that she hadn't won that she'd lost that one game. So she didn't score something like 9 or 10 out of 11. I'll discuss more about that in my number two.
Okay.
But for my number three, I'll say I think she's made steady progress all year, showing very high level. She is by birth or by soul or spirit or whatever, a tactical, aggressive player, right? With a very dangerous knockout punch and tactical fireworks and calculation ability. And over the course of the year, I've seen her playing better and better in positional games, end games, etc., just grinding out every little position that she gets. So I think she's evening out without losing any of her top strength yet. So I think should definitely keep progressing. Will it stop at 2490 or 2520? I can't prognosticate. But it looks reasonably possible that she can shoot for GM and keep progressing here.
And to that, we should add, is it 100? It's 100 grand if she makes GM, right, Kostya?
100 grand, yeah.
And David mentioned a Bobby Fischer prize, which is there an actual Bobby Fischer prize? Like, is there actual
64
money on the line?
64K bonus if anyone scores a perfect score in a U.S. championships or women's
Nice.
championships. It's been on the line for 10 years probably at St. Louis, right, Kostya?
Yeah.
Yeah. They've done it for a while. I think this year they did because it's very unlikely that anyone's ever going to get the 11 out of 11. I think Carissa just got the closest that we'll see for a long time, basically. Because now, I mean, the women's field is also just extremely competitive. This year, for instance, Carissa lost in the first round. So it's like very, very tough. But yeah, this year I think they added a prize where if you start with 5 wins, you get some money, something like $1,000, and then it doubles for every win, like 5 wins, 6 wins, 7 wins,
Okay.
and so on. But I don't think anyone even came close.
Like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16 towards the 64.
Yeah, ending with 64,000. Yeah,
That's clever and cool.
11 out of 11. Yeah, okay, that was going to be my next takeaway as well. Carissa Yip.
What do you think of the question of becoming GM? Do you see that in her future?
Yeah, I think it's very likely. Because so a couple of things, like she has one GM norm already, and earlier this year she won the Cairns Cup, which is a really strong tournament. Yeah, I was reading an article in Chess Life. Apparently, she was sick also during the whole event. So she was like sick
Maybe
and
she needs to
delirious.
play more tournaments sick. I mean,
she won the tournament. And yeah, so here she wins her third in a row U.S. championship.
Yeah.
Um, the year before this three in a row, I think she didn't play. And then she won the year before where she did play. So she won 2021, I think, then skipped a year and then won three in a row. So she basically won four in a row that she's played in.
Hmm.
And this year she didn't start well. I remember she started with a loss and she had like 1.5 out of four.
Yeah, three draws
Lots of
after the
players
one.
were doing great. Like Alice Lee was doing great. She was leading at one point. I actually thought it might be Alice's year. Anna Sargisian was doing great. And Carissa managed to score just a crazy finish. I forget what, but a bunch of
I
points
think
in his last.
6.5 out of the last 7 rounds,
Yeah.
Kosi, I think.
So basically went on a tear. And played very well. Like when she's winning games, she's playing extremely well. So yeah, I think it's very likely that she'll become a gem, especially because now she's kind of taking a gap year, I think from Stanford,
Yeah.
and pursuing chess and doing very well. So hopefully that motivates her to keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was also the best confessional user in the tournament. The tournament had a confessional booth,
Okay.
which most of the players did not visit, but she did. She had some very good stuff in there. So, she's not only a great player, she's also, I think, a very, very good for chess media. Like she's a great interview and
Mhm.
it's just great for the game.
I agree on that.
So, yeah, uh, I'm expecting great things from her in the next couple of years.
Mhm.
Okay, my number two. You guys talk a little bit about Fabi, but I just want to underline a couple things. Fabi is the strongest American chess player right now.
Oh.
There's two reasons why Naka is not on that list, and why I also think that Fabi is the number one pick for winning the candidates, at least as of the moment. Uh, so Naka, buddy, you needed to get games under your belt. That's number one. And the other thing, Naka, that you're going to discover that me and Bruce have discovered, and many other fathers have discovered, is once you have the kid, bruv, once you have the kid, you're going to take a hit. How big the hit's going to be? Well, I want to do a podcast on it. I want to do a podcast on, on a statistical analysis of new dads as chess players and what happened. So in my mind, Fabi is playing great. If you remember too, he's almost back at 2,800 now. He fell to like 2,760 something, or he fell quite a ways. And so he's made his way back up again. He's yo-yoed a bit in his career. And so I feel like he's peaking at the right moment now too for this upcoming candidate.
No kids for Fabi, huh? No kids
Not
for
yet,
Fabi.
but he's going to get the world title before he gets no kids. At least that's my advice for him.
I wish somebody had given me the advice of getting the world title. Who knew it was a good idea? Just go get it.
Um, okay. David, you want to go next?
Sure. My number two might be on Kosi's list as well. I don't know. My number two is that the U.S. Women's Championship has become more competitive. Um, and, a decade ago, it was kind of Crush versus Zatonsky. And they were routinely racking up scores like 9 to 10 points out of 11, right? And the showdown between them was always completely decisive because the other person was going to run the table on everybody else, right? So like if Crush lost to Zatonsky or Zatonsky lost to Crush, they weren't going to make up a full point, right? If their game wasn't a draw, they weren't going to make up a full point against the field because each of them was just wrecking the field, like maybe give a draw here or there, but you're not going to give up a point and a half against the field. And like many things, this has been building a little bit. It doesn't just happen overnight, the whole thing, but the tournament has become more competitive. You've got Paikidze who doesn't play as much, and yet when she does play, is still capable of winning the tournament basically. You've got Zatonsky who has found like a really strong like kick down the home stretch of her career, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
She won like a Cairns Cup 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and she was kicking at this tournament. Good Lord.
Yeah.
And then we've got a new player, extremely strong Armenian import, Anna Sargsyan, um, who I've known of for a few years. She came to my attention playing the Pro Chess League, not a women's only event, as being like a very, very dangerous, rapid player, talented, underrated. So she's come over and in her very first event got second place. And all you have to do is look at the cross table and you'll see that there are tons of players who are near the lead, right? And Carissa, as I said, scored like 8 points instead of 9.5 or 10 this year. And I don't think it's because Carissa played any worse. I think Carissa actually is playing even better than before, but the level's gone up, right? So that's my take on Carissa's score this year, is the level's gone up. Then you've got, Rose Atwell, who has improved. So that's like coming from the junior side, right? You've got Rose Atwell, who's improved. Tatev's actually at like one of the highest ratings of her career. It's just really stacked, and Crush is still very strong, and Alice Lee has been improving steadily, right? So every year Alice is like a little bit harder for the tournament to contain her and keep her from running away. So yeah, I would say, on the junior side, we've got Rose and Alice improving steadily. Then the veterans haven't gotten worse. That's, Crush and Zatonsky. And then we've got Sargsyan coming in. Tatev seems very strong and motivated still. So I just think it's like become super, super tough and hard to predict who's going to win.
Yeah, no, it's gotten very competitive. I think you're absolutely right. And really interesting to follow. And partly that's probably because of the juniors, because you just have like Alice Lee, Rose Atwell coming up at the same time. Carissa still kind of feels like a junior. And so, yeah. And then, of course, the veterans are obviously still very, very good and remain active. So, yeah, it's actually really interesting to follow that event.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number two, I don't really have a number one takeaway yet, so I'll have to think of one.
You have to like one up your number two, but
Yeah. I guess my number two is that people miss Hikaru. They want Hikaru to play the tournament. Fans want Hikaru to play the tournament. Some of his competitors want him to play the tournament. It's much more interesting when the US Championship is basically as competitive as it can be. And it's a little weird that we have this discussion about like who's a better player, Fabi or Hikaru. And it's like they're not even playing US Championship together.
Right.
So it's like, oh, that's a bummer.
But they will be playing
Yeah.
the candidates together. So we got that.
They will be playing the candidates together, but yeah, I feel like there was really no reason for Hikaru to miss U.S. championships this time around. There was really like no reason. I mean, he visited the tournament.
Yeah.
His wife was playing, so his wife was there
his
the whole
super
time.
pregnant wife was soldiering through the whole event.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Yeah. What excuse do you got, buddy?
I mean, it's just like, also just how many times do you get the chance to play the same tournament along with your wife? That's just kind of cool.
In my
Like,
case,
how often does
never.
that get to happen
Never.
in
She's never played in a tournament with me.
Yeah.
like in a national championship? It just doesn't happen very often. So that just would have been cool just on its own. But mainly, I think it's about the competition of the thing. It's like we want to see the absolute best players play against each other.
Yeah.
And I still remember Wesley, he gave an interview a little while back about, I think it was, maybe it was 2024, maybe it was 2022 Olympiad, where Hikaru didn't play. And Wesley said something like, oh, if Hikaru played, we would have won easily, or something like that.
I remember.
And basically, he got some criticism because that wasn't necessarily the case. But to to me, it just sounded like he just missed Hikaru. Like he just wanted Hikaru to be on the team, you know? And at the US Championship this year, he was saying how he said something like if he, Fabi, and Levon play like they play at this tournament, they'll have a really good chance at the next Olympiad. So he mentioned that. And then
Mhm.
he also mentioned like, oh, and it'd be great if Hikaru would play, you know? So it's like it's still in
Yeah.
his
He
mind, you know,
just misses Hikaru. That's so sweet.
that's our dream team, you know, that would be our big four. And then Andy Woodward, you know, board five, and that's a gold medal team.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
my case, Kostya, like that's a topic from like 3 years ago, but not this year. Like I've given up, just like
Yeah.
Jesse keeps like wondering what would get Magnus to return to the World Championship event, and there was a period where I was like, exactly what you're saying now, right? Like, what could we do to get Hikaru to the U.S. Championships? Like, what's the failure of the organization or the prize fund or the chess? Like, what do we need to have like all these top players playing in that tournament? I want it as super as possible, right? But with Magnus and with Hikaru, at some point, it's like they're gonna do their thing. If they don't have the fire or the passion or the whatever for it, I'm not gonna be begging them to do something their heart isn't into, right? So I've given up and like it passed through acceptance or whatever, 2 years ago at this point, right? Like he's, hopefully he's like happy with the way he's arranging his life and having a kid's hopefully going to be like an amazing, totally different off the board experience. But like at this point, when you're talking about like who am I dreaming of showing up at the U.S. Championship, it's Andy Woodward, not Hikaru, because he's not into it, so I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, that was definitely a takeaway for me.
I mean, if I could be 2,800, I would play in the U.S. Championship every year and see how many championships I could rack up. You know, I would even like try to find babysitters and stuff, or bring a kid or two with me. I would try, but that's me. That's my passion and my interest and my excitement.
Yeah. I think you can bring the kid with you. I think the St. Louis Chess Club, they'll watch the kid.
Don't bring the
Um,
kid. Don't bring the kid.
Chess
If you ever
club?
want to play a good tournament, do not bring the kid, buddy.
I think if you and your wife are playing the US Championship, I think they'll watch your kid for you while you guys play for a couple hours.
Uh-huh.
Like coat check and then like check in your baby and
Yeah, I'm sure
yeah.
I'll do
they
it.
would do that for the players. Okay.
good service.
So that was my number two.
Yeah. Now
So
you're going to need a minute to come up with a number one, so we'll toss it over to Jesse.
All right.
sure.
Number one. I wanted to do a podcast about this, just one thing, and Kostya poo-pooed it. He said, it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to put my foot on it. I think it's a big deal,
This is going to be my
especially
one,
long
actually.
term. So the St. Louis Club has been doing a renovation forever. We're going to call it the St. Louis reopening. And I think it's a huge deal for chess long term in the United States. And so, for example, they've been working on this for a long time. But in general, the problem with St. Louis, the club has been, and other clubs, for example, you could say the same thing about the Marshall. You could say the same thing about the Mechanics, is they didn't have enough space to do big events in. So you would end up having to do like a hotel. You have to rent out a whole hotel if you want to do a big old event. So this thing is going to allow the club to do huge chess camps. It's going to allow it to do big opens more consistently as well. Um, so I think it's a huge deal. They're not done yet, but I'm going to be there next summer for the U.S. Senior, and I think it'll be done by then. And I just think it's a big thing for U.S. chess. And one of the things that's fascinating to me, especially a think back on what U.S. chess was like 20 years ago, is we didn't have the gravitational pulls of both St. Louis and Charlotte now. And Charlotte's amazing. We should do a podcast in Charlotte at some point too, where Charlotte is a for-profit organization, but they're doing great as turning that city into a center for chess. And so now if you're a young kid, if you're Andy Woodward or whatever, dudes, just stop going to school and just move to St. Louis. It's so simple. That's all you have to do. You don't even have to worry about anything else. You just get in a little bus, a Greyhound bus, get your ticket, go to St. Louis, and that's all you need to know. And you're done. You're just going to be set for life there because you're going to meet people. You're going to spar with them. You're going to do the dojo training program with these 2,600 dudes, and you're going to become amazing. So I think it's a big deal. Kosti doesn't care. He lives there. And so for him, it's all just like, whatever, I'm here. I live here. I take this all for
What do
granted.
you what do you mean I don't care? It's the whole reason I moved
Hostia,
here
your
so that I
response
could.
to this ridiculous.
Well, he didn't care about the reopening. He was like, oh, it's not that big of a thing. And I'm like,
Oh,
no.
the reopening. No, no, of course. Actually, that was going to be my number one takeaway, or my last takeaway. It's not really the biggest
Okay.
one for sure, but yeah, new club is very cool. Yeah, I just don't. I don't really see how it's. Okay, I mean, I don't see how it's going to be a full hour to talk about the club. The new club is very cool. There's more space. This was the first U.S. championship they played there in several years. Now they allow spectators, which was also very cool. This week they're doing clutch chess there. So Magnus, Gukesh, Hikaru, and Fabi are playing at the new club as well. It's Magnus's first time back in St. Louis since 2022 and the incident at the Singfield Cup with Hans. And yeah, the club has a lot more space now. So they've been in construction for, I think, multiple years, and now they have multiple stories. And there's a basement that's been expanded. If anyone remembers the old studio that was in the basement, that area
Right.
is much larger. So there's just a lot more room down there. There's a lot more room upstairs. It's still very nice. It still looks like the old club. So they got like the old photos. They have the very nice boards. They have area for spectators, to watch the events. They have multiple classrooms now, multiple tournament halls. Let's see. There was rumors that they were going to hold the St. Louis Masters, their big open tournament at the club, but I don't know when that's going to be. They haven't really announced dates for that yet, but that will probably happen at some point in the next couple of months. So I think they're going to start holding bigger tournaments there, which would be very, very cool because, of course, there's so many players in St. Louis, and now they would actually have the space to run tournaments. Because previously, the club just wasn't very big, so they couldn't host like a huge open. But now they can definitely host an open with, I don't know how many, I don't know what their capacity is, but it's probably a couple hundred players across different rooms. I still don't know because a lot of it is still under construction. So right now they have the area where the players play the U.S. Championship. That's ready, but they're still building out a lot of room around. I think they're going to have like a new studio at some point. So yeah, definitely a lot of investment going in, and it's great that they managed to open it up and actually start hosting the big events there.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's it. That would have been the fun
That would have been the
episode.
episode. So, folks, vote in the comment section if you think we should do a full episode on that topic, expand on what Kostya and Jesse have just told us, or if it was okay to fit it into this topic. Meanwhile, I have one last takeaway to provide, and I'm providing it last because it might be the most controversial topics, but it's actually a little bit of a downer, which I felt bad about because like a lot of my other takeaways were, this player's good, this player's good, this player's good, right? Three of my topics were Caruana is good, Woodward's good, and Yip is good, more or less, right? But my last one is that every American player, except for Woodward and Mishra, every other American player has peaked. So, there were epic struggles for Xiong, Robson, and Sevian to grind from 2680 to 90. Oh, drop down to 2682, grind to 2695. Oh, 2691, 2700, right? A Wonder Liang, with a little less grind, a little bit more easy for him, also recently crossed 2700. An epic milestone, but sadly, the last milestone in each of these players' careers. All of those players have reached like their maximum level. They're super players, But then it's like once you reach 2,700, what are you ever going to do next? None of these players are going to play in the candidates or win the world championships. And so that is something to know about the state of US chess. If Hikaru or Fabi don't win the US championship in the next year or two, then the US has to look ahead pretty far for its world championship prospects.
Okay, I want to push back just a touch here, David.
Yeah.
In general, I appreciate what you're saying. It's mostly right. I want to push back with a wonder though, because a wonder is only 22, and only recently, I feel, only recently has really committed himself full time to chess. Only
Yeah,
recently is he going
I
around
agree.
playing these tournaments very seriously. So I think, is he going to win the world championship? Probably not. But that kid, I can imagine 2750. And once you're 2750, you're set. You're just like you're playing with the big dogs all the time. And he's getting
Hmm.
cool things. He got to play he's I think he's going to play World Cup too. And so he's playing all these events, with the big dogs, finally getting the real experience that he needed.
Hmm.
I would push back on Fabi and Naka because maybe they've peaked in terms of their like highest ever rating. Okay, I think Naka is currently at his peak rating, but
Yeah.
be that as it may, um, their next candidates is going to be a great chance for them to make it to a world championship match.
Sure.
So for Naka, if he makes it to a world championship match, I would say that's the peak of his career.
Hmm.
And Fabi, of course, has been to a match, but if he made it to another match with Gukesh, he would have great good chances to win that match, right? So it's like, as far as their career
But,
goes,
but
I mean,
David's
they
just
still have everything to
but
play
David's
for.
talking about strength. He's talking about strength. He's not
Yeah,
talking, of course, like,
I'm
yeah.
saying like my assessment of Caruana's play is like that he's playing very, very well, right? But kind of what I'm saying is he doesn't have another 30 points in the tank or whatever, Like
Right. Right.
Fabi's been an established player. We're talking about like the upward potential of this set of top American players, right? And I feel like most of them have all fulfilled their
Right.
potential, so to speak, right? Like hitting 2,700, that was like a big deal for
Yeah.
Ray, Jeffrey, a Wonder, Sevian, right?
Sam.
Shankland,
Yeah.
right? Big deal for all of them to hit 2,700,
Mhm.
and that's they did it. They fulfilled
Yeah.
their potential.
So you don't think anyone is going to have a Nepo-like rise in their kind of later 20s, going from 27 to
No.
2790?
And I understand Jesse pushing back on a Wonder because he did it more recently
Sure.
and it happened a little bit faster and more easily,
Yeah.
right? I described kind
Oh,
of a grind point by point for a lot of the what?
Hans is still on his way up.
I think Hans is
What?
almost stabilized, Ghosty. I think he's got another 10, 20 points, maybe.
What?
Yeah.
He's on his way up. What do you mean? He's
He's he
I
did great, bud. He did great, but he's not going to go that much further here.
he,
Come
he,
on now.
he
no,
did
he didn't do that good in the US
he
Championship.
didn't do that good in the US Championship. It was relatively like a bad result for him compared to his level. I
Yeah.
think he can play a little better than that. I do. Um, he played, pretty well at Grand Swiss. I do think Hans has a little more potential. Yeah, but okay. Yeah, maybe Hans. Maybe Hans
He's still very
go a
young
bit farther. Yeah.
and he's obviously motivated,
He's very
right?
motivated. He's very, very motivated. He could prove me wrong. But on the topic of a wonder, I understand he got to 2,700 a little bit easier than what I was referring to with the grind for the other players, being in the 2680s for 2 years and then the 2690s for 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. Somehow I still feel like he's not going to go to 2750.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's my feeling. Like a lot of these players who are prospects, we watch them for like the last 5 years. Can they go up a little more? Can they go up a little more? I feel like a lot of them, like they got to about where they were going to get. Maybe it's not every single one of them, right? But
Yeah.
Sevian, Robson, Shankland, Xiong, Oparin, um, these guys have kind of reached their mature level as chess
Yeah.
players.
That's fair. Yep. Yeah.
Sorry, it's a little bit of a downer at the end, maybe for some, but ch- chess has ups and downs, and just because you're not improving doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. So I hope that every one of those players finds a great way to enjoy their time at their peak and also their time when they start coming down the
But
other side of the hill eventually.
but also it's not just about strength. I
Yeah.
think for a lot of players, career highlights mean more to
Yeah.
them than strength highlights.
Win one good tournament, but
No.
but I'll also say this, Kostya, I got the impression that none of these people is going to win the US championships again ahead of Fabi. None of the people I've just mentioned, like in the next 5 years, like I don't see how any of them surpass Fabi.
Not in the next five, but I was thinking of a recent example, Grandmaster Fishbein, who won the US Senior Championship
Yeah, then-
after years of getting bad results against the field,
Yeah.
managed to win that tournament, and it still meant a lot for him. So for him,
Yeah,
that could be might consider that the peak of his career, even though of course his best days are probably long behind him.
Us old guys need
it's not
consolation.
necessarily a downer. What'd you say?
Totally
need
right. You're totally right,
consolations.
Kostya.
But I want to
There's
put
so many other ways to think about a chess career, and if people want to, they can make their best day be their next day.
So,
They can do it.
and
yeah,
by the
maybe
way,
Sabian can't do that.
I think there's totally, Fabi's the best, but you could still lose the tournament. Like Shanklin won the U.S. championship, so any that thing's open. That thing's more even though he won 4 in a row, it's, that can be stolen from him for sure, even if he is the best player.
They just gotta hang in there for like 15 years. They'll have
I mean,
Fabi
right
in the
now,
US
if you look
senior.
at it and you try to say who would win the U.S. championship ahead of Fabi in the next 5 years, you'd think, I guess I would say that, Hans could get there in a few years maybe, but I honestly don't see anyone else surpassing Fabi in this tournament. I mean, he's so good. Like you'd have to play out of your mind to play at the level of Fabi when he's just average for him.
I think Wesley is very close to his level, dude. I mean, yeah.
Wesley was pretty close this year. He was doing really well.
Yeah.
And Hans was at the start as well. So Hans definitely, I think, will have his chances.
Okay, there you have it.
All right.
The state of U.S. chess, everybody.
The state. Bye.